So this is a build submitted by Will called the Feydark Ruin Wizard. 20 Wizard, 10 Epic. So pure Wizard here. With Intelligence Max, Constitution Max. I'm very excited about this build because Ruin builds are great. They're not good because they're powerful or because they do anything useful. But they have the ability called Ruin, which does 500 base damage, and Greater Ruin, which does 1,000 base damage and has no save, which means you don't really need your DCs that high. You just need really high button presses. Let's take a look at this build. Pure Wizard is a good way to go. A possible better way to go with this would be maybe mixing in some Warlock for some extra crit multi, but we'll see exactly how you build out some of this stuff. To get started, you have Mental Toughness. Let's see, Maximize and Quicken sounds good. Mental Toughness good. Illusion and Evocation. Empower Spell. Greater Evocation, Greater Illusion. Mental Toughness. Heighten. Insightful Reflexes. Enlarge for that extra range. Wellspring of Power. Epic Mental Toughness because you need all that crit chance, which is good. Wellspring of Power is good. Force Spell Power. Ruin, Greater Ruin, and Scion of the Feywild to get that extra DC with enchantment and illusion spells. I would say if you're going as a Ruin build, you really want your Ruins to be extra Ruiny, which is where Scion of the Play on a Fire would come into play, because it gives you critical damage with spells, which is kind of important. So I'm going to say that this is probably a better priority than Scion of the Feywild, but it really depends on where your DCs are at for some of your other abilities that you're taking. Important note, this character also takes Arcane Pulse and does not take Embolden Spell for the extra +2 DCs. This is going to be an interesting thing to take a look at. But yes, Ruin deals 500 untyped damage to a single enemy, no saving throw. And Greater Ruin deals 1,000 untyped damage to a single enemy, no saving throw. Important note, Ruin and Greater Ruin cost 75 and 150 spell points. These costs are increased by metamagic feats. So you need as much spell cost reduction as possible. Your character will get 20%, and if you're playing with a bard, you'll get even more, but you will want spell cost reduction in any way possible, so you will be using the full auto set to get 0 spell cost during Wellspring of Power, so you can cast 2 Ruins and Greater Ruins at no cost. Keep that in mind. Next, moved into the enhancement tree. I see what's going on here, but this is a classic mistake. You see, so this is hidden. What this says is 1% force, 1% force, 2% force, 2% force. But what this actually is 3% force, 3% force, 4% force, 4% force. This is actually a bug, if you did not know. It looks like you get 6% force crit chance, or 8% force crit chance, but you actually get way more than 8%. This character is getting 14% right here, because it's 6 and 8. So that's really important. The next thing is this ability up here, Arcane Supremacy. What this says is your offensive spells has a 10% chance to trigger Arcane Supremacy. That is wrong. What this actually does is it gives you a 100% chance to trigger Arcane Supremacy if it's off of cooldown, which can only happen every 90 seconds. So what this means is if you don't cast a lot of spells, you can then trigger Arcane Supremacy, have 25% extra crit chance and 100% crit damage, and then automatically use your Ruin, Greater Ruin, and guarantee that 100% spell critical damage, which is why a lot of people like to do this. On top of that, Arcane Blast is also necessary for a feat that we did not look at, that we're going to be looking at here in just a second, but there is actually a wizard feat that you can take. It's a wizard archmage exclusive on this list here, and it is called Master of Knowledge. Your Arcane Bolt and Arcane Blast now grant you a stack of Mental Honing, which is 2% extra crit damage, which stacks up to 30 times for 60% extra spell crit damage. If you have maximum stacks of Mental Honing for 60% spell crit damage, plus the Scion of the Plane of Fire for the 25% spell crit damage, plus the tier 5 ability up, your character is doing almost 5 times damage on crit over top of what you are already doing. So you can ruin people for like 150,000 damage. Should you do that? Oh, it's pretty good. It's definitely a good option. So if you're going for the Ruin build, and you want to max out on your Ruining, that's kind of important. I like improved Epic Mental Toughness. I personally think that if you're going for the Ruin, this is a better option. Now you might ask yourself, okay, but then if you're doing that, then you're not taking the Feydark Illusionist stuff, which is one, Master Illusionist, which is like a pretty good cooldown. And on top of that, you don't grab the extra 4% crit chance here, which is pretty good. You don't grab Displacement, but you cast the spell. You're a wizard. Get over yourself. and you don't take Ring of Shadow Blades here. Well, Ring of Shadow Blades is bad because you hit monsters once and then you don't hit them again. It has a long cooldown, so you can't even just like chain it through dungeons. Force in Tandem is pretty good, and the crit chance is okay. So you have to ask yourself, what do you want? Do you want consistency with your general damage through the Fan of Shadow Blades and Shadow Blade and other stuff? Or do you want really big high rolls, plus also having access to Arcane Blast, which is another spell you can cast all the time? Personally, I think that Arcane Blast is just straight up better than Ring of Shadow Blades, because you can actually cast this and hit monsters with it, which is pretty good. So I would usually take this over this. Yeah, Arcane Supremacy is good. This is a good ass ability. So that's important. And then outside of that, on top of that, you also need, giving up on Master Illusionist. That one's not too bad. I actually don't care about Master Illusionist that much. I don't think it's that big of a deal to even have. And then instead, you can take Master of Magic up here, which gives you reduced meta magic feat cost by 1, which might not sound important, but you actually, again, all your meta magic feats apply to Ruin and Greater Ruin at their full cost. So it actually just reduces your Greater Ruin and Greater Ruin by a whole bunch of spell points. And it still gives you 2 intelligence. You don't need the 2 to all stats here. So out of this tree, I would dump this down to exactly 31. So let's just take this out, this, this, and take this down to 31. And then with this 31 here, you took Evocation for the Chain Missile and Magic Missile. I think that's a pretty good choice. And then grab Arcane Supremacy, grab Arcane Blast here, and then you can have extra DCs if you want of your Mastery. You took Evocation, so it basically just gets you an extra +2 Evocation DCs as well on all your spells, and then the Master of Magic. So you lose 4% crit chance, but you're actually gaining way more crit chance than you thought you had in the first place. You lose Ring of Shadow Blades, but you gain this Arcane Blast. So you constantly spam Arcane Bolt and Blast, like literally on cooldown, as well as your Fan of Shadow Blades and your Shadow Blade. So you're spamming all of these abilities just constantly, and then the second you see Arcane Supremacy come up, Ruin, Greater Ruin. Because you want to get all this stuff as high as possible. So that's important. And then in the Gnome tree, you take Greater Color Spray, but you already have Greater Color Spray out of the Fey Dark Illusionist tree, so you actually don't even need the points spent here in Gnome on Greater Color Spray, because you have both of them. So if you wanted to be a Pale Master, you could with this type of build to be able to heal yourself, which is probably going to be a good thing since you have so much extra crit multi. Because bear in mind, you might be like, oh, I can only use this for these different spells. Like I don't need a lot of these different spells or certain spells. Arcane Supremacy is all about killing people. But think about it like this. What if at the beginning of a quest, you cast any offensive spell, it triggers Arcane Supremacy for 100% spell critical damage, you cast Wellspring of Power for the extra power on that, and then you cast your Death Aura. So for the next, 6 minutes of Death Aura, it's almost 100% crit chance, and when it crits, it does, triple. Oh, it's hard to heal yourself? Yeah, not when you do that. So I would probably take that out of the tree here. I would go Pale Master, Negative Energy Conduit, for the extra Namp, Skeleton Light, grab the Lich form probably because it gives you Constitution, Intelligence, Med Amplification, Negative Spell Power, and all this other stuff. And then you have 2 points left over that you can't get this Intelligence back, but instead you can grab the Illusion Focus because you want to have Illusion Focus on here for all your spells. So that's kind of the idea. Because again, you don't need Greater Color Spray. You have Greater Color Spray. You are a Color Sprayer. And this is a Deep Gnome, so you start at 15, so you get most of the stuff anyway. Hey, Tom, what's up? How you doing? Next is your Epic Destinies. Now, you're in Magister, which is good. Perfect. On top of that, you also take Arcane Adept, which is great, and you do want to use because you need to have the minus cost reduction. This is a good idea. You grab Fade into the Weave. I would grab probably more Intellect, but that's also a good option. Now, it's important to note, there's another ability that you want to fit into here. And that ability is Empyrean Magic for 10% crit chance. The problem is, this doesn't proc on any spells that you cast at all, and I have no idea how to fit this in. How do I get Empyrean Magic procs on a Pure Force Wizard? Help me with this. I have no idea. I have no idea how to do this. You also twist Aria, which gives you less threat. as well as some force spell power, which is okay. But you probably want mana on this build. You take first harmonic chord, which I guess you're going all in on spell power, but yeah, you want mana more than anything else. Didn't color spray proc it? Color spray does proc it, which is true. Keep scorching ray and fireball. You have a lot of stacks to maintain. That's the main issue, is that you have a lot of stacks that you need to maintain. It doesn't add fire spell. Unfortunately, Zazie. Because you're already trying to keep up stacks from the Archmage, which, by the way, this is not an easy task. Keeping up stacks by constantly casting Arcane Blast and Arcane Bolt is something you have to try to do all the time, and it will be difficult to do. You'll be undead, so you don't want to cast Cocoon, but it does proc it. Meteor? Yeah, Meteor gives 2 stacks. But again, that's too much mana to upkeep stacks. Oh, and important note, you're all forced, so Cyclonic Blast hits really hard. Fire Shield Span, again, that's a cost problem. So you don't need Rejuve Cocoon because you're undead, so Endless Faith is a way better option. Spell Power is okay, but there's better options in this. A lot of people like using Arcane Hymn because it gives Spell Pen, UMD, as well as Intelligence. I go back and forth on that. Do we need a Stygian Wrath in this set? Stygian Wrath, well, this is a Force Caster. This is a Force Caster. Another issue is, what if you play in Draconic? In Draconic, you don't get any of the other stats, but you know what you do get? 30% crit multi. Yep. Wait, does this get Fire Shield? Wait a minute, with a 6-second cooldown? Hold on, does Fire Shield proc Empyrean Magic? I have no idea. It is a fire spell. Yeah, do you have a character with Fire Shield and Empyrean Magic? Please test somebody. This is very interesting. I have no idea. If Fire Shield procs Empyrean Magic, then you're 100% using Empyrean Magic in this build. Also, what's up, Nep and crew? Oh, man. What are the odds? I totally forgot that you get Fire Shield, and it costs 6. You always have Fire Shield up. All the time. You just do have Fire Shield. And then that would mean you would go into Divine Crusader and grab the Empyrean Magic. And so you just cast Fire Magic when you need to. Do Half-Elf Warlock? No, it does not, unfortunately. So you would probably do this. Instead of Aria, you don't really need the minus spell threat because monsters literally die in one hit when you hit them. But spell power is pretty good. Also, out of Draconic Incarnation, well, it's a tier 3, so you're trying to figure out what other tier 3s you might want. You could then, instead of Aria, just go back into Arcane Hymn, which gives you this. It gives you more spell power and is a better thing in general. Fire Warlock Aura procs it, so Fire Shield should. Warlock Aura procs it as a. I'm pretty sure that's a bug. And first harmonic chord for 9 spell power is not enough for a tier 1, I don't think, for the power of a tier 1. Also, you don't grab Unearthly Reactions. Do you take Insightful Reflexes on this build? Or does it not fit? You do take Insightful Reflexes. So, I don't know what your saving throws are going to be. But they seem to be pretty good. I don't love Fade into the Weave. But some people like this because, you know, it gives you extra spell power. And the threat generated from spells goes down. And then, of course, you have Battering Spellcraft, which is 45 extra spell power. And then Arcane Tempest, which will do a lot of damage. Again, when you have that proc, you see Arcane Supremacy pop up. Arcane Temp, you can either activate your Wellspring of Power, and then Arcane Tempest and drop a bunch of other crap and kill everybody. Because that's it. For the entire 10 seconds that Arcane Tempest is down, it's every damage hit has all of your crit multi carried along with it. So there's got to be something better than first harmonic chord. Dragonhide is just straight up better. Immediately, no fail fortitude saves. But yeah. Alright, cool. So let's actually look at the gear on this character. You have the Mistfallen, which gives Insightful, Spell Focus, Illusory Death, and a bunch of other stuff. Sure. Queen Scepter, which gives you the Sonic stuff. Oh, man. Oh, man. Mark IV. Arcsteel Battle Mage. No, no, no. No, no, no. Your character can't even use medium armor. You don't want to do this at all. So you want to be a cloth guy wearing a cloth. Actually, you'd probably just want to use light armor, if I'm being honest, and just use an augment to fix it up. And grab yourself the gray leathers here, because gray leathers is the gray leathers, which is pretty nice. Alternatively, if instead of the gray leathers, if there was a armor that could work for this, you could probably try to swing a Vol set, but I feel like you don't want to do that. I figure you'd probably just go with the gray leathers, which gives you force and negative artifact crit and spell power. Fire shield not proccing it? Okay. Then you wouldn't use that. Then what would you use instead? No worries, it's all good. So what would you use instead? You've got a tier 3 twist here. Beautiful. Look how beautiful this is. Take whatever you want. Unyielding? Girardi? First level spell, Fire Touch? No, it takes way too long to cast. You have to quicken it, and it sucks. Also, what's up, Samby? How you doing? Shadow Dancer? Wall of Fire is doing weird things? What is Wall of Fire doing? Oh, maybe they patched Greater Color Spray? Remember, it has to hit something. Ends the timer early if you run through it? Oh, that's a problem. Let's go to, yeah, buffs, stances. The stances or buffs? So you would not use Epic Defensive Fighting. You would be in Lich form. You have Arcane Spell Surge active. You'd have all of these things active because they're always active. Does Fire Shield proc it if you're getting attacked in combat? No, that would never work like that. Okay. But yeah, you want to use this set, the Grey Leather set, because you are now a Necromancer, and so now you want to use not the Chains of the Grave. Necromancer's Bracers give you your Void Lord Nullification, Parrying, Insightful Sheltering, and the Dreadkeeper stuff. Now, the problem is getting Force stats. Force statistics are very, very hard to come by. So you have two options. You can either use the Kinetic Sphere, which gives you Kinetic Lore, Impulse, Energy Siphon, Force Absorption, which is, like, not too bad, because it gives you some of the Force stats that you need. But honestly, Ring of Winter's Chill already does that, so you wouldn't need that. Where do you get Insightful Impulse and Quality Impulse? I feel like there's something that does this. Twist Avenging Light. Probably better just to drop it. I'm remembering something. Force Spell Power. I need the gloves. The skin-tight gloves. Thank you. The Dreadkeeper set. So you have the Dreadkeeper set, because it's the artifact crit chance. You also need exceptional crit into this build, so you'll have to replace one of these items. Because the reason why is that instead of the Kinetic Sphere, what you want to use is you want to use the Stygian Wrath, because the Stygian Wrath is, like, really good. Get the intelligence on here. And so this has Insightful Intelligence, and it has Insightful Nullification and Insightful Negative Lore. And then I believe it's only the Titan Control Matrix. Gives you Kinetic Lore, Insightful Impulse, and Quality Magical Sheltering. I don't think there's anywhere else you can get that. And then your other ring, you would replace this with the hilarious and powerful Clouded Dreams, which gives you plus 10 crit chance for both all of your spell types, as well as Insightful Spell Focus Mastery, because it's 10% exceptional universal spell lore. Mutilator of Minds. No, I really don't want to do that. I'm going to look it up. EDO Impulse items. Impulse items. Insightful Impulse items. It's the Titan Control Matrix. And Quality Impulse items. Nocturne, the Song of Night. Impulse, Insightful Impulse, Quality Evocation. And that's not a good item. Kinetic Sphere. And Nocturne. Cool. So now you need to figure out how to get potency and quality potency. And this gives quality potency, so now you need insightful potency. And that's pretty much it, which comes from your weapon. So, sweet. So you're pretty good. You're pretty in the clear. Staff of Winter Solstice? What's a staff? Force negative. Power. This doesn't have insightful, though. It does have enhancement bonus to critical damage with force and negative spells, though. Is it worth it to lose about 100 spell power for 20% bonus to crit chance? I want to say no. There's no LGS force. Do you lose 18% crit chance on your orb? What's your crit chance right now? Yeah. If I said crit... Oh, I apologize if I said crit chance. I meant crit damage. So crit multi and crit chance. So negative right now is at 19% and force is at 71%. But this is also off by quite a bit. But yeah, you're going to be close to 7... Or this is 8 when it should be 14. So this is 77% crit chance and this is 79. I don't think it's worth it to give up on that crit chance. Because this means that both of them, while Arcane Supremacy is active, your crit chance is 100% with force and negative spells. So your full critical multiplier applies. And your critical multiplier isn't coming through because I can't set it with... there's no slider for this ability right here. The... not Epic Mental Toughness. Wait, that didn't change over? What? I picked Master of Knowledge. Oh, that's probably why that didn't fit. There's probably no Master of Knowledge stacks in here then. Oh, I still can't choose Master of Knowledge stacks. Is there M for Master of Knowledge? No, you just can't choose Master of Knowledge stacks. There's no way to choose it, but you would have higher critical multiplier than this. Especially if you had Wellspring of Power active. Meant to be looking at crit damage? Yes. But yeah, if you could sort out the stacks, that would be nice. Also, is Wellspring of Power? Yeah, Wellspring of Power is right. All that stuff is good. New sticks for you, 49. Oh, would that be worth it to craft? Oh, because it would have all of the spell powers on one single item. But you still need force and negative spell power. You wouldn't be able to get away from using the bracers. Let's take a look. Oh, I can't do what I was about to do. Hold on. Sorry. I have to make sure I fix that habit. I cannot use the DDO forums while I am logged in. Named loot. Okay. So, the scepters. Usable scepter. Kinetic lore. Impulse. Insightful impulse. And evocation focus. And then you have negative lore. Nullification. Insightful nullification. And necromancy focus. I have no idea. I think for now we're going to plan around not having those items in the game and probably stick with Stygian Wrath. Because you're still going to get more damage out of that. You also don't want to use the Cloak of Winter here because that does not work with the other stuff. So you don't need Arcsteel Brim, so we're going to swap that out. You don't use the Cloak of Winter because that reduces your healing. So we're going to swap out the Arcsteel Brim for the Crown of Snow, which gives you Spell Focus Mastery, Paragon of Cerulean Waves. So when you're casting spells, you're just going to be freezing people all the time, which is pretty sick. And you don't want to use the Cloak of Winter Which one? You could use the Mage Rights Cloak if you wanted to grab Enchantment Focus and Insightful Enchantment plus Wizardry. Trying to figure out how you keep up your spell DCs, or do you get more mana? Or do you replace the cloak entirely with like a green steel cloak? I do want to hear a funny story. It was the middle of hardcore season, I thought. Yeah, like it's not going to be coming for a little while. Cloak of Balance? No. Black Velvet Capelet? Gives you Insightful Negative Amp and Profane Well-Rounded? In theory. Bugs to fix, but some people are hoping for pre-hardcore. Yeah. I don't think it's going to be pre-hardcore. But they haven't mentioned a date for update 49. They said they were probably doing another Lemania. So with 2 Lemanias, we're probably going to get us, you know, it's probably going to take a little bit of time. The 5 Rings has Wizardry, Resistance, Spell Pen, Quality, Intelligence. It's not too bad. So you got Quality Spell Focus Mastery here. You're missing Profane Spell Focus Mastery. But this has Profane Well-Rounded at least, which you can augment out. Force Absorption, which is a hilarious level of irony. Intelligence 22. So with your spell powers, you're looking at Force is over 1,000, and Negative is 946, which is not too bad. Dev event incognito and recognize the other as making good comments. I was going to mention Easter event, PC, and Aura colors. Oh yeah, you brought up the Easter event? That's hilarious. Because I was like, Easter event, and everyone reminded me. I was like, oh right, Easter event, duh. I know what you guys are talking about. You know? I wish you could replace this Winter Ring Witch Chill, but you can't. And so your saves are a little higher. You still have some hit points. Your defense is... I mean, you wish you had more MRR. Oh, yes, and also PRR into this. You need to have a Sapphire of Armored Agility. Like 15. You can get those. Also, Filigrees slots. You know, you should have a bunch of Filigrees. I'm going to put all the Filigrees in here that you'd want. Important ones. This is essential for the build. This build will not work without this. Intelligence autos. Spell power autos. PRR autos. MRR autos. Constitution autos. You don't have to have exactly these ones, but you need the 5-piece. When you activate the feat's Epic, Arcane Insight, or Wellspring of Power, your spell point cost for all spells is reduced to 0. Man, if you could have Arcane Insight as well into this build, you'd be so happy, but you just don't have the feats. Mannequin, because he was testing my Hardcore League Abyss Warlock, who was a half-elf. Oh, that's funny. So yes, this is essential. You need the 5-piece for this, because your character is going to be trying to get... not only as much force spell power as possible in universal spell power and what have you, but you also need the reduced spell cost for 10 seconds. So then that way, you can ruin and greater ruin more often. And then on top of that, since you want intelligence, Eye of the Beholder and Inevitable Grave are great 2-piece to get some extra intelligence. Grab a couple of Ds. Also, you want just Eye of the Beholder in general. You don't really need the Inevitable Grave, but you want the Eye of the Beholder. Inevitable Grave is like, okay. Where's I? Oh, it's the Inevitable Grave. I always screw that up. And you can grab more intelligence if you wanted out of here. But then you want to go for the Eye of the Beholder. Grab an intelligence and a spell power. And that leaves you with 3 slots. But this is kind of be like the bread and butter of these. Speaking of Ds. Oh, did I take my D? I did not take the D. D! Oh, I guess can you take Warlock Dilettante as a Warlock? Does that work? It's D time, everybody. Grab your D. D pills in the face. Should I go outside? Nope. I do feel rejuvenated, though. And full of energy. Oh, that's bad. Yeah, that would be bad. Okay, that makes sense. And then lastly, what else do you put in here? You probably just go with Intelligence Raid Filigree. Probably. For the extra spell power plus the more bonus to intelligence. And then, like, the Inevitable Grave. Where's the abilities right now? 101. And then you go with, like, the Inevitable Grave Intelligence. Something like that. So it gives you some bonus. And you just hit them all, because you gotta feel good about your stats. 12 Filigree sets. Having 12 Filigrees, by the way, is like basically impossible. How do I undo this menu? How do I undo this? Oh, there we go. I was like, how do I click out of this? There we go. Didn't think so. Yeah. Splash Paladin, you can't pick the pack you really wanted. Yes, I've done that before. Whoops. That's basically the build. As I said, it's missing a couple things. This character is unfortunately not able to pick up on the crit chance. You should have a good amount of spell points on here as well, though, because you have wizardry built in. The resistance, you have the all the spell focus mastery everywhere else, all the crit chance. Quiver of Alacrity is perfectly fine. Collective Sight, you don't need Insightful Intelligence on this, so you can craft this to whatever you wanted, like Insightful Charisma if you wanted, or Insightful Wisdom for extra will saves. Seems perfectly fine. And I think that's it. Yeah, and then you have a lot of spell power. Force and Untyped, 1099. And this would affect your all your ruins and every other force spell that you cast. You have 180 negative amp. And your negative spell power is also pretty high. And then, of course, as far as spells go, you want to make sure that you have in the spell casting list. You got your SLAs, which are pretty good. You know, your Arcane Bolt and what have you. Wait, why is Arcane Blast on here? I took Arcane Blast, right? Yeah, I did. Oh, it doesn't show up. That's weird. Weird. Anyway. In here, you want to make sure you also take Negative Energy Burst and Death Aura. And if you really wanted to, you could also take Lesser Death Aura, just because Lesser Death Aura totally sucks, and it's not a good ability. But you could just use both, because you can use Wellspring of Power and get them to do both. And that's kind of the goal here with this. Any other spells, not really that important. I think all the buffs are probably equipped already. Oh, no, the buffs are not equipped. You do not have this, you do not have this. Spider Skin, no. Shield, yes. As you cast that on yourself. Primal Scream, Protect from Evil. Rage. Because Rage is just a good ability. Night Shield, you want to cast that. You don't cast Merfolks, but you cast Jump. You cast Haste, Greater Heroism. You can't cast America, unfortunately, but you do cast Displacement. And Blur. You probably wouldn't need to cast both, but you could cast both. And there you go. There's your character, all set up. So I hope these improvements helped you out a little bit. This is not a perfect build, but it is very interesting. So, what are the issues with this? The main issues with this character build, if you want to try it out, number one, it is a very high skill cap character to play, because you can't just ruin everything, because you'll run out of mana in like 3 packs. Also, they have a 15-second cooldown each, so that still doesn't even work. You have to focus on all of your other skills, and you have to get used to juggling up some of your other abilities. How would this work in Heroics? Fine. It's a little slow, but it's for the most part fine. However, once you get to 17 and pick up Meteor Swarm, you'll never believe what scales really well off of Force Spell Power. That's right, Meteor Swarm scales off of Force Spell Power, because Meteor Swarm has half Force, half Fire. That's a very good combination of abilities. You start this character at 15, manage to get 2 levels scraped away by AFKing through Giant Hold Sagas or whatever, and then get to 17, grab Meteor Swarm, and then instantly delete Sharn with Mass Hold Meteor Swarm next room, Mass Hold Meteor Swarm next room, Mass Hold Meteor Swarm next room. That's it. That's how you do it.